No, my video. The video.
Share your screen.
I'm not sharing my screen.
So you can see the part and see it, but you can see what you're doing here.
I want to see the other thing. I'm going to share it from here. Share it from here. It's the other paper.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Uche Aniche. I'm going to be handing over to Ifeoma, who is going to be anchoring this to do what she has to do. I'd like to thank everyone for joining. So Ifeoma, please, if you're ready, just go ahead and take on.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Ifeoma Osai, and I'll be anchoring today's program. We'll start right away with introductions. In a few minutes, can you please kindly, if you haven't introduced yourself in the chat box, can you kindly do that? Reimagine Oguta is a community development conversation by Oguta indigenes and their friends. Today's event is made up of 4 sessions, which will be holding over 4 days. Today, we'll focus on citizens-led community development and collaboration, while tomorrow we'll be focusing on human capital development. Next weekend, we will focus on economy, security, and youth engagement. The event is designed as a highly engaging and interactive conversation. For questions, all questions and comments will be taken at the end of the session. However, if you have questions, kindly use the questions and answers feature in Zoom. Also, you'll be allowed to ask your questions in person. And if you want to do that, kindly use the raised hand feature and you'd be admitted to talk. To speak in person, kindly ensure that your video is turned on. Otherwise, you'd be removed. Kindly keep all comments civil and respectful, no attacks, personalized abuse, and no foul or swear words will be allowed here. You'll be removed from the session without warning if you use such language. Again, we reiterate, all questions and comments will be taken at the end of the session. I don't know if on your screen you have So about Oguta, we have a documentary, a 3-minute documentary on Oguta, which should be on your screen any moment from now. I hope I'm muted.
Okay, Ife, thanks. The About Oguta documentary won't play, but in its place, I'm going to be playing another video right now. I'm going to play another video right now in its place, just, or we can just move over to the next thing. We'll play that later. If did you hear me? Move on to the next thing.
Yeah, okay, so would introduce, would have a welcome address from Uche and Nietzsche. So, Uche and Nietzsche.
Okay, thank you, Ife. Thank you, Ife. My name is Uche Aniche. I'm from Oguta Umode village. I'd like to welcome everyone to this event. I just want to read out a few things that I penned down, which forms, can everybody hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Great, so which forms the basis for this event. I like to, Obuago, Oshiji, Damanze, Obuefi, Ochamazi Bukanu. I'd just like to stand on, give respect to all, to whom, give honor and respect to everybody that it is due. Your Excellency, Right Honorable Alphonsus Gerard Irona, former Deputy Governor, Imo State, Obuago Dr. Ernest Chungapa, and Pioneer Executive Secretary, Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, and convener, League of Oguta Professionals, by extension, the convener of this event, right? This event is under the auspices of League of Oguta Professionals. I'd like to also recognize Ms. Efuru Obuangapa, which is the President, Oguta UK and Ireland Association, and Ijoma Dibwa, the Vice President, Oguta UK and Ireland Association. I'd like to President, Oguta National Association, represented by Obika Obi, who is the Secretary of the National Association. I'd like to recognize all Loop Committee chairman and members that are here. Mr. Innocent Chukuba, Regional Director, West Africa Ford Foundation, distinguished keynote speakers, panelists, guests, and all our friends from across the world, and all protocols duly observed. It is my pleasure and honor to welcome you to Reimagine Oguta. We have defined Reimagine Oguta as a development conversation by Oguta indigents and their friends, focusing on Oguta in the 21st century. In reality, it is designed to allow us to co-create the future home of our grand and great-grandchildren and their children. You know, the Bible says in the Bible said in Proverbs, or says in Proverbs, that a good man will leave an inheritance for his children's children. Oguta is a renowned progressive community. We have a rich history and heritage. Citizens-led development has been part of our culture for ages, making us the envy of communities around. This explains why my friends would quickly correct me whenever I call Oguta a community. They would argue that it is a town, and indeed we're a town. We inherited this from our forebearers and should not do less. Indeed, more is expected of us, given the era we live in. We live in the knowledge era, so more is expected from us. Truly, we haven't done badly, but we can do much, much, much better. In a more coordinated fashion. In the next, we can all share our individual visions, collate them, and collectively make them our own. It is my hope that we can identify those ingredients and opportunities we need to create a better future for Oguta. It is my hope that we can develop a roadmap to implement the outcomes. Above all else, it is my hope that we can find common grounds to collaborate as brothers and sisters with one goal and one mission for the good of Oguta. In an unprecedented era of turmoil and chaos of global proportions, consequential economic distress, and dwindling national revenue, worsened by impact in inept leadership at all levels, it will be futile to continue to rely on the government. It will be futile to continue to rely on the government alone for our community development. On the other hand, the several individual and group efforts can become very significant and more impactful if deployed in a structured fashion. I have no answers. I cannot claim to know everything. My task is to bring us all together to fashion out answers. The output from this conversation will be hosted publicly for the use of all well-intentioned people. Hopefully, it can guide them and guide all of us to locate opportunities for intervention, either in our private capacities or in collaboration with others. Hopefully, too, this can inspire other communities who look up to Oguta. By so doing, we'll be inspiring a new wave of development around us. The rich man who lives in the midst of poor people is hardly rich. I would like to thank His Excellency Right Honorable Alphonsus G. Rona for accepting to attend and support this initiative. I would also like to thank Obuagu Dr. Ernest Ngapa for championing the initiative. The entire leadership of the League of Oguta Professionals for the support you provided for us to achieve this, to put this together. I would like to thank the leadership of Oguta National Association USA and Oguta UK and Ireland for your support and partnership. I would like to thank the partners and individuals that have donated and sponsored to make this possible. I'd like to also thank the team that has worked with me to make this happen. They allowed me to provide leadership for the project, even though I know that most of them, I don't qualify to be their PAs. Yet, it didn't matter to them. This is the timeless Oguta spirit I grew up to know. Special thanks to Professor Faith Michael Ozoka, Professor Afamdi Anene, Ekine Stronghold, Bennett Ohanere, and indefatigable Idu Ngadiaro for the work we have put in. Our work has just begun. I know that this is actually the beginning of the work. Finally, I would like to thank everyone that has joined. Without you, there will be no conversation. As we discuss and listen to ourselves and our friends, I plead that we display the time-honored Oguta values of respect, camaraderie, and friendship. Let's kindly refrain from divisive remarks and speak only measured words that will build us and contribute to the attainment of our goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Uche and Ichi. Indeed, much more is expected from us all, and we can do much better if well coordinated. Would quickly call on Obuagu Dr. Ernest Nwapa, sir, for your opening remarks. Can we have the intro?
Am I on now? Can I?
Profile of Ogbuagu.
Hi.
A chemical engineer and an accomplished Nigerian politician from Umwai. A globally
Ogbuagu, Dr. Ernest Nwapa.
I can come on.
Just 1 minute, just 1 second, sir.
pioneer executive secretary of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, NCDMB, and the convener of League of Oguta Professionals, LOOP. He was appointed Nigerian Content Coordinator at NNPC in 2005 and rose to become the Group General Manager, Nigerian Content Division, NNPC in 2010.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
I'm trying to share my screen. I don't know. I'm trying to share my screen. Okay, but this is just a welcome statement. This is not my presentation, right?
Yes, you're welcome. Yes, you're welcome.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you very much, Uche. Your Excellency, the Deputy Governor of Imo State, past Executive Governor of Imo State Deputy, my brothers and sisters and friends of Oguta Meshi. Let me, on behalf of Luke, thank all participants on this occasion of Reimagine Oguta. This discussion is very important for all of us. Uche, you and your team have done a marvelous job. I am happy that we all know that this is not just going to be a one-off. Even after these sessions, we will need to build on it. We need to do more to get brothers and sisters together. We must continue to stimulate these discussions. That is what we owe ourselves and our younger ones, our children. I met Uche on the platform of Society of Igbo Professionals, and I saw the great work he was doing, working for the whole of Igbo land. And I said to him, Uche, if you can do all this good work for the Igbo community and Igbo interests, why don't you come and stimulate us, come and work with Luke to bring the Oguta platform to cover the entire Oguta spectrum. And I'm very happy that he responded to that call. Today we're having the first session, and I call on all of us to put our minds to this. We need to have a major push to expand our opportunities to work together. We must work together, those of us at home, those of us in diaspora, those of us that have capacity, the politicians, the professionals. We need to come together to make sure that the capacity that our parents and their forebears built for us is not wasted in our generation. I believe that if we can use this method, we'll be able to stimulate our younger ones, those in their 20s and 30s and 40s, to start learning how to collaborate. So I wish everybody the best of this conference, and I hope we will stay on and use this opportunity to build our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ogbuagu, for your welcome remarks. We'll now introduce His We'll now introduce His Excellency, Honorable Alphonsus Gerald Irona.
Engineer and an accomplished Nigerian politician from Umuayata village, Oguta. He served his people meritoriously at different levels, starting from the ward councillor and growing through the ranks to becoming Oguta Local Government Area Chairman, House of Assembly Member, Federal House of Representatives, and later the Deputy Governor of Imo State under the Emeka Ihedioha's administration.
You're welcome, sir. You can.
Thank you. Biko, Amadou Ezigbo the log to this program. His Highness Ezigbo of Oguta, Ogbuago NS Nwapa, Engineer NS Nwapa, and other Ogbuago. Oshiji. Ochamazi Obukanio, Idenu Anama Anwana Oguta Murumnio. Ndibane, I thank the organizers of this event, Reimagine Oguta, a community development conversation. Event for this fortnight, patriotism in thinking about an event such as this. I want to thank the organizers of this program for the opportunity and the privilege given to me to be one of the speakers, and for assigning me a topic to the 1st century community development paradigm, distributed vision and citizen collaboration. An occasion such as this provides an opportunity and also an exhortation to take a focused, intentional time to think about why our beloved Oguta Mesh has continuously regressed, not only despite, but in spite of the numerous individual and collective efforts and activities. Permit me to state here that I take it for granted that the reason why we are holding this event is because we are all discouraged with the state of affairs in Oguta Mesh. We are frustrated by the current noticeable deterioration in our relationship with each other and with one another. We are discouraged by how we are unable to stir up love and make personal sacrifices for our motherland. We are discouraged with how we are unable to encourage one another in their respective endeavors and aspirations, and discouraged about how we are unable to meet together forthrightly to plan for the betterment of Oguta Mesh, our motherland. From literature, community development is a process that leads to change in many aspects of community living, which includes, but not limited to, social, economic, cultural, as well as environmental. It is about continual improvement, first with the help of change agents, and later by the people themselves to bring about change in their lives, which ultimately improve their quality of life. The focus of community development process is the people's involvement, whereby the community members come together to take action collectively to meet their shared goals or to generate solutions overcoming shared problems. In the words of Robin and Robin, 2001, community development covers when people strengthen the bonds within their neighborhoods, build social networks, and form their own organization to provide a long-term capacity for problem solving. This assertion is in line with what economists call path dependency, a term used to convey the simple idea that choices you make yesterday that choices you made yesterday affect the choices available to you today. So if we agree that community progress flows from the existence of the capacity to think, to decide, to plan, and to take actions in determining and managing the delicate balance of continuity and sustainability of the community, then an essential sine qua non for community progress is the existence or establishment of an organization or organizations that can provide a long-term capacity for problem solving. What this means is that the fundamental characteristics of a community development is community organizing. People have to organize themselves before an action can take place in their place. And organizing, by both definition and practice, is simply the development of an instrument within which community members can decide or make some influence that affect their lives. This means the establishment or bringing about of a group, either formal or informal, with or without a formal structure. In Oguta Mesh, our ancestors bequeathed us with such groups in the traditional governance structure of the town. The traditional platform through which Oguta Mesh people can come together as families, villages, neighbors, and community. A platform within which we could build societal consensus, and a platform through which, as a collective, we can reward as well as sanction. As we gather today to imagine Oguta, the most important question we should be asking is, how did we jettison our veritable platform presented by the traditional governance structure that hitherto represented the gathered will of all Oguta sons and daughters, that provided a platform to solve all the pressing problems confronting the community, and very importantly, represented a moral assurance that every unresolved issue within the community will be properly adjudicated. Today, I call on all of us to resolve that we shall no longer live with the current state of affairs, but make an intentional effort to restore our deeply cherished culture of traditional governance that has been abandoned for decades, but which we must reactivate if we are to arrest the moral decay, criminality, drug abuse, institutionalized sabotage in our fatherland. These vices inhibit development either directly or indirectly. Using this opportunity of this August event, I respectfully put forward my suggestion that the first step toward the revival of the community development spirit in Oguta Mesh is for us to reactivate our traditional and political governance structure. And to fully elucidate on my proposition, I'll give a brief rundown of the original Oguta traditional institutions. 1, Ndiche. This is the highest traditional policy-making body in Oguta community. Ndiche, composed of Ezigwe as the leader or as the chairman, as the case may be. Ogene Oguta. Ogene is the oldest man in Oguta. Iyasara, Ezekoro, Ogana, Orizere, Ndanike, Njopara. That is the 27 village heads in Oguta community. This body ensures the protection of our fatherland, our cultures, heritage, and has the power to sanction individuals, families, villages that act contrary to lay down rules and customs of the Oguta community. The second institution is the village leadership. Another relevant governance structure in Oguta is the village leadership system, We have 27 villages in Oguta. Each of these villages maintain an independent administrative structure. Each village is headed by the oldest man, Opara. The Opara is the head and presides over the village meetings. The decision-making organ of each village is the Umishi. Umishi is composed of the head of various kindreds in each village. The Opara of each village presides over the Umishi and village meeting. The 27 village heads in the Opara is led by the oldest man or the oldest Opara among the Opara, who is called Ogene. They meet periodically in Ogene in council meeting. They take decisions which, if need be, are conveyed to Ndiche for ratification and adoption. You have other strata of community stakeholders. You have the title societies. Here include the Ibu Society, the Obuefi Society, the Uririnzeret, the Oshiji, and others. You have another stakeholders, which is the age grade. We have several age grades in Oguta. Now, the interplay between the traditional authority and economic and political leadership. Ndibane, all the above mentioned traditional institutions, through a simple and transparent exercise of moral authority, coupled with the streamlining of their procedures for selection, recognition, and roles within the traditional setting, play an important role to regulate the behavioral activities of Oguta sons and daughters. It is this moral and spiritual authority of the traditional institution that is transmitted to Oguta Community Development Union, OCDU, and given the mandate to supervise the social, economic, and political development of Oguta community. Now, OCDU. As the name implies, OCDU has the responsibility to oversee the physical, economic, and political development of Oguta community. Its mandate extends to the town planning, spatial management of the land resources within Oguta mesh, as well as providing political direction for Oguta through interface with all tiers of government, from the local government, state government, federal government, and all agencies and parastatals, business tenants of the Oguta community. For effective citizen participation and collaboration in the development of Oguta, OCDU is structured with its head office in Oguta. Also, we have several branches scattered all over the country. You have Lagos branch, Owerri branch, Port Harcourt, Abuja. These branches elect the leadership of OCDU. For the effective coordination of its activities and dissemination of community programs and policies, OCDU also maintains women and youth bodies that coordinate the women and youth activities in Oguta community. OCDU was structured to be a non-partisan organization. However, this body has suffered several setbacks as a result of internal wrangling, politicization, and sit-tight syndrome, the Oguta dilemma. All these social, cultural, traditional, and political structures are supposed to be the fulcrum for the development of Oguta community. Unfortunately, while the village head structure, the title societies, and the age grade system all appear to be working, the two most important institutions, namely Ndiche and OCDU, have been dysfunctional over a long period of time. The total absence of Ndiche and the perennial crisis in OCDU have made it extremely difficult to have a well-coordinated Oguta community development agenda. The traditional leadership vacuum means that there are no clear modalities for maintenance of peace and order, as agencies traditionally designed as custodians of the tradition and culture of Oguta people have been rendered impotent and non-existent. The absence of a mechanism for achieving societal consensus, coupled with the absence of the moral authority to implement a reward and or sanction regime system, is responsible for all the ills that currently plague Oguta mesh. In Oguta today, the rule of the jungle is what currently obtained in Oguta mesh. And many of our people today have the misguided belief that everything is possible and that they can get away with anything. My question is, should this be allowed to continue? To buttress my point, I respectfully ask this audience to remind us the last time that the stakeholders in the traditional leadership of Oguta community held a meeting and made a binding proclamation. When was the last time Oguta people rose as one voice and demanded that parents control their errant children or risk sanctions? When was the last time Oguta people rose up in unity and strength to challenge the annexation, the broad daylight stealing of Oguta, our ancestral land at Ubi Oguta, Osemoto, Enigbo, Tombise? When was the last time Oguta people rose up in one accord to speak truth to power, that be in the local government, state, and federal government, and make collective demands for the infrastructural development of our fatherland, Oguta, and a fair deal for Oguta sons and daughters? Matter of fact, have we ever heard that Oguta people resolved to and went to any length to lobby to place Oguta sons and daughters in position of authority and influence, so that the benefit will eventually flow back to Oguta mesh? Finally, when was the last time Oguta people have responded to an existential threat and stood as one united people and ensured that the problem or challenge yielded to the gathered will of Oguta mesh? At this point, I want to say that so many of these existential threats have been often and on. Recently, there was this issue of the removal of technical college, previously cited for Trinity High School, Oguta. Oguta people have not collectively taken a position. And this is one of the catalysts of development in a community. Ndibani, the reason all the above mentioned have not taken place is the absence of Ndiche and the derailment of OCDU. Oguta mesh have for some long time been denied the benefit of having such two important institutions that are crucial to normalcy, community development, societal prosperity. Clearly, in Oguta mesh today, we do not have the institutions and the mechanism to unite, to reward, and to sanction. Conclusively, it is common knowledge that Oguta used to have a traditional leadership structure, which enabled her to maintain peace, harmony, and development at home, and enable her ward off external aggressions. You will agree with me that it was because we had institutions, developmental-driven institutions, that lands were collectively allocated to Chief H.P. Udom, and to Chief Richard Nzimiro to build the secondary schools we have today in Oguta. These schools, in no small means, made our people to see the four walls of higher institutions. Today, for inexplicable reasons, these traditional structures have been violated, dishonored, and jettisoned. All of us gathered today are anguished as we watch the glorious days of Oguta Mage fade away. And Oguta continue to descend lower and lower in the scheme of things. We are fortunate that today we've been afforded a momentous opportunity to right this wrong and take bold steps to establish and reaffirm the traditional leadership structures that have served Oguta Mage so well in the past. We must seize this opportunity as it is the only clear and sustainable path to restoration and development of our motherland. We cannot overemphasize the urgency in our collective resolve to fight to, one, re-establish and reaffirm the most revered Ndiche. Two, sanitize and reform the OCDU to bring it in conformity with modern standards of community leadership. OCDU must be oriented and pointed towards passionate love for and selfless service to Oguta Mage, our motherland. But as we embark on this journey, as we reimagine Oguta and reimagine her essence and promise and her tomorrow, I want to remind us that we cannot repair Oguta Mage unless we bring to an end the prevalent and grim practice of political and social polarization. We should stop forming cartels within and amongst us. An honest effort should be made to disband the existing cartels. Cartels seek to divide, while unity of purpose and honest and brotherly cooperation prevail when we give each other an opportunity and a chance. As we confront this challenge to fashion out a new promise, the new tomorrow for our motherland, the powerful and often cited words from the Black philosopher and the activist, Frank Fanon, comes to mind. I quote, "Each generation must, out of relative obscurity, discover its mission, fulfill it, or betray it." We lived in Oguta where the Wapas, the Nzimiros, the Dibuas, the Nzeribes, the Udoms, Iyasaras, the Okoshas, the Georgifis, the Wakuches have played their role. What are we doing for posterity to judge us right? Today we have gathered today because we accept that Oguta Mage has been cast into dark valley of uncertainty and incomprehensibility as we make the decision to push back, starting with reimagine Oguta. From panel points to us the choices available to us. That is, either we fulfill this mission or we betray it. At this point, I want to thank the organizers and thank the good people of Oguta for the opportunity given to me to serve Oguta people, starting from councillorship to the deputy governor. And I wish to state that my ambition as a politician is to one day lead Oguta community development as a community where I will end my political career. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Irona. Thank you so much for taking us back historically and enlightening us so much on community development. Indeed, globally, development experts emphasize the importance of cultural heritage. And this is very much in line with your talk to us today, that there's need to reactivate our traditional institutions. There's need to reactivate our traditional institutions and look inwards. Thank you so much again, Honorable Irona.
My pleasure.
So, we would now want to welcome the Director, Ford Foundation West Africa.
If he before that, Engineer Obuagwe next will need to do his presentation.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Obuagwe,
sorry about that.
Can I share my screen? I'm not able to share. Maybe you have to control it from there.
You can. Yes, you can. Try again now.
Okay, let me try now. Wow, I can't find it. I can't find my. Okay, let me try this. Okay, that's fine. Is this sharing?
Yes.
Are you seeing my screen now?
I see your screen, but not your slide yet.
Okay. I'm seeing my. It says your screen sharing is paused. So is it from my end? Okay, let me resume share. Is it fine?
Share the slide. The screen is being shared, but the slide, you will need to open the slide first. I think you're in your inbox. You're in your email inbox.
That's the only place I'm seeing it. I've gone to my files.
You need to download it.
Oh man. Okay, let me go back. Resume share. So let me go. Can I send it to you? Can I send it to you? Then
send it
then
to me and I can
share it for me. Okay. So maybe like you can progress and then I'll send it to you.
Okay, great. So let's have Mr. Chukuma come on then. So while you do, you can end screen sharing. You can stop sharing your screen. Okay, great. Ify.
Okay, so let's take a keynote presentation from the Director of Ford Foundation West Africa, Mr. Innocent Chukuma. He'll be taking us on the 21st century model community development.
Thank you. I sent a slide. Is it possible? Yeah. If not, I can also speak. Paying homage to the former Deputy Governor of Imo State, His Excellency Mr. Gerald Irona. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, permit me to stand on an existing protocol and say that I'm very delighted to be part of this conversation and thank my good friend Uche and the other organizers of this important event for extending an invite to me. I was invited to come and give a keynote speech, and I looked at the theme of the webinar and came up with a topic that I titled Reimagining Community Development in Oguta, Invitation for Critical Conversation. And I'm happy that the Deputy Governor spoke before me because he provided the context and the depth of Oguta heritage, which from where I sit, I could not have captured. So I built on what he stated and make a presentation that speak generically to the Oguta situation, but which could also be extended to the larger Igbo community at large. Somebody may want to ask, why am I inviting people to have a conversation on rethinking or reimagining community development in Igbo land? Because all over Nigeria, the Igbos are prided as the ethnic group in Nigeria that is the pace setters when it comes to community development. Every year, we all go home to our communities, to our villages, to contribute our little quota. Wherever we are in the world, Nigeria inclusive, we form associations, and the sole aim of these associations are about developing our community. Why should we rethink such a model that is the envy of people around the world? Well, that is the fulcrum of my presentation, and it will look at three critical areas. First is to rethink the self-help approach to community development in Oguta and in our region. The second is to combine the self-help approach with a right-based approach so that we can scale and maximize the impact of the development projects that we implement in our communities. And the third is to transform our community development association into community foundations so that whatever we do can be sustainable. And as I will share in the course of this presentation, we will see the challenges continuously dipping into our pocket to contribute to community development, how it has become difficult for us to continue to do that because of the existential challenges we face in Nigeria at large. And if you permit me, I will begin with conceptual clarification, which is the third page of the slide. So if you can go to the third slide, please. So there are three key concepts you will hear in the course of this presentation. The first is community development, which I won't dwell so much on because the Deputy Governor started with it. The only thing I will want to stress there is that in the past, community development was viewed as what government, rich people, and other individuals do for others. You know, it's viewed as something where the recipients are passive people who wait until others do development for them. But the current understanding of community development is that it is an orderly, positive change in the physical, economic, social, political, and cultural conditions of a community with the active participation of the community in determining and designing the type of change they need. So it is not community development if the community do not participate in it. And in the course of this presentation, you will again understand why it cannot be described as community development if the people do not play a role in it. And then the second concept is the self-help approach to community development. The central idea in self-help approach is that by working together, people can improve the quality of their lives. So rather than do it as individuals, you pool resources together so that you can maximize the impact of what would have been a small measure by each one of us doing it. And this is what we have been known for. And as we'll see in the course of the conversation, we have pushed it to an extent where we have perhaps reached the limit of what self-help approach alone can do in transforming our communities. And the third concept you will hear in the course of this presentation is the whole idea of right-based approach. And the central idea in right-based approach is that community development is not a charity. If you go back to the social contract theory, individuals and communities gave up their sovereignty to the state in exchange for welfare and security. So the right-based approach sees community development as the right of the people to demand from the government, from their leaders, from the local authorities, state and national authorities, because they are members of that community, because they are human beings with human rights that are supposed to be fulfilled by those whom they have elected into position of authority to serve them. And finally, community foundation speaks essentially to a vehicle for mobilizing the resources of every member of the community, big and small, and putting it aside for investments that will impact all. And one critical difference between community foundation and community association is that the community foundation has an endowment where the wealth and the contributions are aggregated and invested, and the proceeds of that investment is used to engage in development activities agreed upon by the communities that set up the foundation. So these are our common understanding that will run through this presentation. Next slide, please. And then we ask ourselves, what is essentially the history of this self-help approach to community development that Igbos are known for? And my argument is that it actually predated the colonial era. If you read about our traditional Igbo communities in Oguta and other communities, you will see in building our homesteads, those days we used to build with rafters and mud, it's a collective thing. We invite members of our family and other communities to come and pull together the sands, the rafters, and everything we use in building our homes. And we also take turns. When we finish our own and other members of the community have their own, we go and do the same. Till today, we could have what we call Ebama. It's not what individuals do alone. The whole community agrees on a day where the roads leading to the community, everybody joins in cleaning them, in widening them, so that it will be useful for everyone. As Christmas is approaching now, I'm sure in Oguta and other Igbo communities, days are set aside to do the communal roads. That is the self-help approach that we know. So it is not something that began in the modern times. It has always been there. But during colonial times, it assumed a new dimension, because as people moved from their villages to go to the colonial urban centers, they bonded together in neighborhoods where they lived in. If you read Professor Okudiban Noli's book, Ethnic Politics in Nigeria, you will read that the colonial urban centers are cradles of ethnicity, because as people are moving from one villages or town to new urban centers, they tend to live together. And for we Igbos, wherever we resided during the colonial era, we never forgot our villages. We took our villages to us in those places. And that was how we started forming town unions, community development associations, welfare associations. So the whole modern idea of community development associations, as we see it today, can be safely to be said to have developed during the colonial era, because when people move to distant places, they like to keep in touch with their villages, they like to bond together, and when they come together, they ask themselves, what can we do to make our villages as developed as the colonial urban centers that they settled in? But the third factor, which in my view is the most critical on this whole journey of self-help approach, was the Civil War. As we all know, at the end of the Civil War, every Igbo family, every Igbo father was given 20 pounds to basically start life anew. And we spend 20 pounds on your own. For those who got it, we shouldn't forget that many people didn't even get that 20 pounds, regardless of how many millions in Biafran currency they had before the war ended. So people began to pull together this little amount that they had and use it to continue to grow themselves economically, but also not forgetting their villages. If you go to many villages in Igbo land today, including Oguta, I believe, you will see that the pipe-borne water, the electricity that we have, their pipes and the wires were actually laid few years after the war. And you ask yourself, how could we have done that without this approach? And that was why the post-war reconstruction in Igbo land, it's reputed to be the fastest in the world without government involvement. It is right there on record. So these are the things self-help approach has left us to do. And then the question is, why am I inviting you to rethink it? I'm inviting you to rethink it because of the unintended consequences that it has brought in the development of our area. Because as we went about all these development projects, including those governments should have done for us, we allowed ourselves to develop right there at the back, at our backyard, imperial majesties as our leaders. People who are not held accountable, who believe that no matter what they do, people will always tax themselves to do community development in their area. So this mentality of suffering in silence has lingered to this day and is perhaps perpetuated by our practice of community development association in isolation without seeking other ways of enhancing it. Hence the need for us to look at it again with a view to tweaking it so that it can better serve us. Next slide, please. So while the next slide is coming, what we'll be discussing is why self-help approach is no longer sustainable. The first point I have for this is that the implementation of urban renewal and safer city programs across Nigeria appears to target economies on the fringe. They appear to target the informal sector. They appear to target MSMEs. And you will agree with me that the Igbo economy is an informal economy. So whenever a road is widened, whenever flowers are planted, whenever there is forced eviction, who suffer it is predominantly those whose economy is on the fringe. And whenever our businesses are affected, whether it's through El-Rufai's forced evictions in Abuja or in Lagos, where they have through their social and fiscal disorder laws, they're chasing people away. The people affected are predominantly our people. And when they are chased away, where do they go? They go back to their villages to look for how to start again, which is often through selling of land and all that. And these are the same people we expect to contribute for our self-help approach to community development. So you will see, because of these policies that target economies on the fringe, our people are no longer able to contribute as they used to contribute in the past. And yet, through our Community Development Association, we continue to levy them without asking ourselves, what other opportunities do we have to ensure that our communities are developed without milking the willing cow to death? The second factor that is making it unsustainable is rising youth poverty and unemployment across Igbo land. As we know, self-help approach is dependent on adults who are earning a living contributing to community development. But when our youth who have no job, some up to their 40s, it will mean that the pool, the population of people who are contributing to self-help approach keeps dwindling by the day because they are not gainfully engaged. So with the way unemployment
Okay, I think we're having issues, slight network issues.
I guess he's going to just log back in. He's going to log back in, I believe. So let's just give 60 seconds and see. Otherwise, we'll just go over to Google next and he can continue his presentation later. Just give 60 seconds. I believe he will log back in. Okay.
Sorry, I was cut off for a second. I don't know where we are, but I thought I had finished the second point, why I felt that self-help approach is no longer sustainable. So the third one is rising corruption. I will be quick about it. I know my time is running. The level of corruption in community development projects in our villages and towns today is making people shy away from contributing. In the past, we used to have launching for all kinds of development during Christmas and other festivities. People no longer contribute to those because they feel that once they contribute and go back to where they are based, they have no way of being assured that those who are left to drive the projects do so. So with this corruption level continuing, self-help approach is dwindling. And finally, is the unconducive business environment in Igbo cities due to bad governance by elected leaders. If you look at the ease of doing business, there is a survey done every other year in Nigeria. You will find out that Southeast states are always at the bottom. In 2019, I believe Imo State was placed 34 out of 36, and the other states are within that range. So without making our environment conducive for businesses led by our sons and daughters to thrive, they will not be able to employ people who will in turn give to self-help approach to community development in the region. Next slide, please. We'll be discussing how to embrace right-based approach. Next slide. Fine, yeah, we're there. So when we talk about right-based approach, as I shared at the beginning of this presentation under conceptual clarification, it's essentially treating development as a human right. And for us to understand how to wage it, because it's actually a battle, it requires a lot of advocacy, we need to educate our community members on their rights and responsibilities, first as citizens of our communities and also as members of the community. Because if you do not know your rights, you will not know how to assert it and insist on it. And how do we do that? It requires creating platforms for holding accountable those in leadership position. The deputy governor spoke about this during his presentation when he talks about local governance forum, through which you hold elected leaders accountable at the community level, state level, and national level. Without having such platforms, hold on a periodic and predictable basis, and making those who were elected to know that they are there to serve us, we will continue to languish in self-help approach. We also need, under right-based approach, that whatever development project coming to our communities, our people have a right to participate in determining those projects, in designing them, in implementing them, and monitoring them to ensure that they are completed as scheduled. And this means that contractors who are giving those projects, we need to know them, not with a view to extorting them, but actually supporting them, because what they are doing will ultimately impact our development. So rather than the current approach where bands of youth come together to insist that, oh, you won't come to our community unless you pay us something. No, that is not what right-based approach is all about. It's actually saying, we welcome you to our community. We know you were given this project to do it. We want to support you to ensure that it's implemented to the letter in terms of quality, in terms of quantity, and above all, timely completion of this project. And finally, on the right-based approach, we need to ensure that only those who are motivated by a desire to serve the community are elected into leadership positions, whether it's at the traditional level or any other platform at all, because we are not a people that should sit back and have development come to us. We need to participate in those development. Next slide, please. And then we'll talk about how do we transform community development associations to community foundations. As we know, the central purpose, central function of community foundation is actually about aggregating resources from all, not leaving it to only those who have money, but everybody can contribute in one way or the other towards ensuring that development is delivered. And that our associations are registered with the Corporate Affairs Commissions as incorporated trustees with boards of eminent persons who are qualified to ensure that proper governance are in place, and that projects that are aggregated for implementation are handled in such a way that they are effectively implemented. And the important thing, as I said at the beginning, is that endowment is critical to sustainable development. So rather than mobilize and do launching each time you want to do a borehole or each time you want to do a community health center, we should ask ourselves, if we want to spend on an annual basis, say 10 million, how much do we need to raise and endow so that the interest that will come from that will generate 10 million for us to spend in a year? It's not something we fully mobilize in a year, but we'll give ourselves, say within 3 to 5 years, we are building an endowment, our community endowment, to this amount, so that after that, we don't need to be contributing every time again. And the advantage of community foundation over other community philanthropic initiative is that you can actually use it to match other donors. For instance, you can say, as Oguta Community Foundation, we have 20 to 30% of the budget that we need to do this development project. That we need you, Ford Foundation, we need you, MacArthur Foundation, we need you, Open Society Foundation, to contribute 50% so that this project can be implemented. And you also go to the government. We don't want you to do this alone. We want to contribute. The project that have been sitting on the drawing board, if we bring 20 or 30% of it, can it be fast-tracked? So you are an active negotiator, an active participant in determining development projects that come to your community. Next slide, please. And the kind of thing community foundations do all over the world, which by the way started in Cleveland in 1914, is that invest in economic development of the communities. We revitalize our communities by finding out why is it that we are not competing? What do we need to put in place? Who can we partner with to ensure that this happens? Embrace technology. Oguta sons and daughters are living across the world. If you have a properly set up community foundation with a governance system that they can trust, they can easily use technology to contribute to the project. They don't need to come home during Christmas period to participate in launching. We have all kinds of finance technology today, or what we call a fintech, that they can use to contribute wherever they are. And more importantly, it enables you to collaborate with all role players. and you are not limited by your immediate communities. Once you are registered and you are known as an organization that has proper governance, you can stay in Oguta and apply to Rockefeller in New York, and all they need to do is check you out on your website and know that you're credible and they are able to partner with you. It also enables you to convene stakeholders beyond your community. I mean, the kind of event we have today under a community foundation, you can imagine how far you can go. And above all, it provides avenues for community inputs, ideas, connections, and organizing. Because as I said earlier, community development is no longer what you sit back and others do for you. It's a joint effort. And on that note, I say thank you for listening to me and congratulations for putting this together. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, sir.
My next slide is ready. So, Wagu, if you're ready, we can take your slide.
Okay. So upload it so that I can just talk through them.
Sure.
So while you're uploading it, let me just acknowledge the brilliance of the Deputy Governor's presentation and Innocent's follow-up. This is very, very instructive. They have done a lot of work for me. So I'm going to focus more on some of the softer concepts in my presentation. Okay, let me have the next slide, please. Yeah, so looking at the historical perspectives of our community, I want to look at the pre-war era and look at the development activity, the manifestation of that development, and then the prime movers of such activities. So we quickly look at education and human capital development. Once you talk about education in Oguta, your mind goes to Trinity, to PMGS, to Biako, the primary schools, the apprenticeship that is part of our culture. Most of our technicians always have their younger ones or their relations live with them and learn their trades. There's also an important part of our culture, the tales by moonlight, what we call Eguonga, that helps educate our children even outside the formal education circuit. The age grade system is also a very good opportunity for building human capital. That is the foundation we had in those pre-war years, especially during the colonial times. Then as Christianity started, catechism became also another way of educating people. The prime movers for these activities were basically Philip Udom, who is the proprietor of Trinity, Zimiro, who set up PMGS, the church missions, and again, the community union. So it's important that we remember that these things were self-help, just like the previous speakers have spoken about. When you look at agriculture, Oguta operates a farm settlement system. Most villages have a place called Ubi across the lake where they do their farm settlement, and they actually live on the farm. They live on the farm, they cultivate their things and then come back to town, and then they frequently go back to operate those farms, and then after harvesting, they come back for the Omerife festival. We had major agricultural activities, palm plantation that Chief Mwapa set up, the rubber plantation by our neighbor in Egwe, then a cashew plantation by Chifudom, cocoa plantation by one Mwapa in Ubi. Fishing was the mainstay of every Oguta family, and hunting was also part of our agriculture and produce arrangements. So you look at that area, Oguta was almost self-sufficient in food production. We exported yams, we exported fish. And then when you look at trading and commerce, Oguta was the center of palm produce trade, especially the export trade. Because of that, it also formed a hub for import and distribution of British goods. Therefore, other merchants brought their goods to Oguta for export. So in one fell swoop, Oguta was a commercial nerve center. Oguta was a port. And then Oguta connected the cities of Abonima, Onitsha, Port Harcourt, Mbiama. And the Royal Niger Company still has a warehouse in Oguta. The warehouse is still there, although it was damaged during the war. And they had estates for their staff and people. So when you talk about trading in Oguta, the names like Ruth Onumono, Mary Zimiro, Chief Sianwa Paukora Fondoka, Mberebe Commander, Dibua, HP Udo, Regional Cam, Wokome Yasara, Jejins of Osio Bika. We had so many people, I can't even get all their names into this particular presentation. But Oguta had that culture. And as we saw in our childhood days, and even before we were born, they had established a certain degree of prosperity in the town. And they were living their lives and bringing other people along. That spirit of communal support, the spirit of Onyaha and Nwanneya, was there from the beginning. And then that ties back into housing and urbanization. As the people were getting more emancipated, they got to understand how a new town will look. That's why if you look at Oguta today, as the old town is even arranged in such a way that most villages have their access to the lake. It's very organized. There's no Igbo community that has that kind of grid work. But beyond the old town, you can see that the new town is designed the way you have city blocks. That's the way you have the downtowns in most American cities. And this created the grid work for Oguta and stimulated modern architectural housing developments. Oguta is one of the towns in the world that have gone to where everybody, both the educated, the professionals, the traders, want to build a house that is designed and that is competing with the next house. And these things are almost citizen regulated. We don't need the town planning to come and tell us the setbacks. Most people respect these things because they want to have a house that is good. We must give credit to people like Barrister S.B. Siobiora and Ero Anabak for creating that grid law. And this makes Oguta, if you see an aerial picture of Oguta today and you take it out, most people won't believe that it's a city in Nigeria. In terms of technology and industry, Oguta was very advanced. I know that most of the watercraft operating in Oguta were manufactured locally. But the big Owako, which could carry more than 50 to 100 people, the Obose, which was the ferry used for ferrying people across the lake and going for long journeys. In fact, the Owako was ocean going. Those boats were built on the shores of Oguta. And the small kayak was also built. We have agricultural tools, the fishing nets. The local fishermen had, they'll use their ropes to make their nets to various sizes and nets that, both the nets that you cast and the nets that you keep overnight. Not to talk of agricultural tools, the building materials, the traditional building materials, the roof, the walls, the paint, the floor finishes. We had the technology locally in Oguta to do some of those things. And then even our musical equipment, the drums, the gongs, the wooden gongs were all manufactured. And we had a lot of blacksmiths in Oguta in the heydays. I mean, in my own lifetime, I saw all these things. It's not just like stories that have been told to me. In the religion, we have deep-rooted traditional religious belief. The themes are around the lake. And these beliefs made us to be very, very compliant. Today, people don't care. People don't care about courts. They don't, even the youths now don't worry about police station. So in the days when our traditional beliefs were held high, you know, if you did anything and they told you that you're going to be taken to one of the deities, people just confessed. So those were some of the things, the masquerades and all those native things that were helping in the governance of our communities. We lost them. So the missions brought in their own activities and then started creating Christianity, which also helped remove some of the very dirty aspects of our culture and tradition. Fortunately, Christianity has come to stay, and it has helped us to grow our knowledge globally and about our spirituality. So for political, when I say politics, we look at the communal politics. Engineer Rona has talked a lot about politics, about the stratification of our governance. Ezigwe of Oguta has been a very paramount ruler in Eastern region. It's one of the three. It's only the Ezigwe of Oguta, Obi of Onitsha, the Ezara of Arochukwu, and maybe Obong of Calabar. These were the major traditional rulers that were recognized in the Eastern Nigerian government. One of the prime movers of our politics in Oguta, the grandfather of Oguta politicians, is A.C. Nwapa, a very flamboyant national politician of his era, and H.P. Udom, who was a member of the Eastern Nigerian parliament. So in the bureaucracy, we also have had people from Oguta, the High Center Dikes, High Center Nozia, Newton Okaro, Sylvester Nwapa, all the civil servants. We had people in the army. Dr. Alban's father was one of the first soldiers that Oguta produced. Administrative officers, policemen, court clerks, postmasters. Oguta had the early break in starting in the bureaucracy. On transportation and travel, Oguta has always been a destination. Even the white man found Oguta as one of the first places to arrive in Nigeria. And because of the schools and commercial activities, the major Trombi road was constructed to Oguta long time ago. Many transport companies like Oganiba Bros, Golden Pekin plied that road. And goods trucks, the trade activities in Oguta really created a big boost to our economy in Oguta. And these things made us stand out as a community. So if you went to Onitsha, Port Harcourt, Aba, Oguta people were already established in those cities. We even had the steamers and powerboats bringing commerce from the UK. In youth and sports, there was robust sporting activity in the schools. Having 3 secondary schools in Oguta made it, even up to the 70s, there were very many sporting activities. The young ones excelled in soccer, boxing, athletics, music. Youths were mobilized positively, competing in academics, social life, and civic responsibility. You can talk about names like Charles Mmaji, the Council of Ayola, the Ogana, Tonda, Ogedu, Zokamaila, many great vocalists and instrumentalists. The age grade system produced a lot of composers, music composers, things that have value, things that we are losing today. And when I go to some age grades now, they don't even have a very good okwa, which is like a vocalist. Then for health, we started with dispensaries when many people didn't even have anything like that. Then hospital followed in Oguta when Dr. B. Unzaribe and Dr. James Udom set up branches of their hospitals in Oguta. They also had a lot of nurses, a lot of people working with them. Then on law and order, Oguta took the lead in the legal profession. I don't think that, apart from people from Onitsha and Asaba, Oguta was the next town that had the highest number of lawyers, you know, setting the foundation for the dominance of the bar and bench by people in the post-war era. Many of the lawyers set up private practice in Enugu, Port Harcourt, Aba, and Onitsha. I mean, we talk about Justice Oputa, Sylvanus Nsofo, Ifnanya Dumazogo, Justice Aseme, Justice Adigwe, Justice Sunday Korafo, Bob Nzarebe, the magistrate. And that's how the whole setup in Oguta was in those years. Now, the more years of 1967 to 1970 brought us, everything was put on hold. It was now a fight for our life. Oguta capacity was put to good use for the war effort. A lot of the people who did the Wunigwe had about 2 or 3 Oguta men in it. The Transport and Logistics Directorate had 2 or 3 Oguta. Oguta was very well, Oguta contributed very much to the war effort. The schools, the Trinity and PMGS served as military headquarters for the Air Force and Navy. And then many Oguta sons and daughters volunteered for service. So you look at the crop of Oguta bureaucrats, politicians, and professionals who contributed to the war effort on the Biafran side, and you will find that the Biafra could not have gone very far without the support of these Oguta heroes. And the residents of the Oguta man kept the town alive all through the war. As a young man, I remember there were parties. After the air raid, the young men still had parties. The military officers were roaming around the town. And the strategic importance of Oguta made it imperative that it had to be defended at all times. In fact, the head of state, then General Dumegwu Ojukwu, had to come to Oguta to fight for the liberation of Oguta. That shows how important the town of Oguta has been. It was very important to the colonialists. It was very important when, after independence, Oguta continued to play an economic role for Eastern Nigeria. And then during the war, Oguta was a major center and never really fell. Oguta fell for less than 2 days throughout the war. But at the end of the war, most of the infrastructure was damaged and it was like starting afresh. So, next slide. So I could say that the post-war years brought out the values of Akurono and Onyaya and Nwanne again. Because during the rehabilitation, as Innocent spoke, they gave only 20 pounds. But there were some Oguta people that were living abroad and some that were living on the Nigerian side, and they brought in a lot of relief, a lot of support. And many Oguta people who did not care to build houses in Oguta before the war found that it was necessary to at least have a small house in the village. Once again, the humongous capacity of the Oguta intelligentsia came into play in the rehabilitation effort of the central state government. This is where we had 3 out of 12 commissioners. At one point, Flora Mwapa was the commissioner, Father Nuzia and Henry Okosha. The Chief Sylvester Mwapa was the PAMSEC. We had 3 high court judges. We had Ebinio Korafo, who was the senior civil, so many other civil servants. Newton Okaro was rising in NEPA or in ECN at that time. We had Professor Nzimiro in the universities and so many school principals. Student enrollment and scholarships rose dramatically. So after the war, there was a boost in regrowth, and we all had Oguta coming back up again until things started going south in the post-civilian era. We have survived the war, and a lot of our glory years have been eroded, but there's still a lot to thank God for. At this point, I would like to show some pictures of some of the icons. Next slide, please. Some of the icons. Uche, can you roll up a little bit? Okay, so these are pictures of some of the icons. I mean, it's not exhaustive, but it's important to show some of these guys and look at what role they played in getting us into where we are now. I can tell you that without the Chifudoms building Trinity High School, a lot of us will not be where we are today. That school created the foundation for the capacity that Oguta had. Like the picture tagged for is Mayor Nzimiro. A lot of us have never even, this was my first time of seeing a picture of him. He also built PNGS, which he named after Priscilla Nzimiro. These icons were the foundations of Oguta. You have Chief Athan Zeribe, who was like a major umbrella, political umbrella for Oguta. when Arthur was in his prime, a lot of people were denigrating him, people put to him, but everybody in Oguta now understands that Arthur was a major shield to the Oguta community. There are so many things that are happening to Oguta today that would not have happened to us if Arthur was still very, very virile and walking around. We have Chief Mwapa, who also set up a major economic boosting institution, a farm in Oguta. That farm was very instrumental. I have the picture of Dezigwe, who sits at the apex of our traditional governance. Next slide. So there are some pictures I could not get, and pictures of people like Dogonwa Kuche, people like Oputi Worisha, people like Wellington Okam, Newton Okaro. These are icons. These are people who worked, who refused to be selfish about development. There is hardly any Oguta man that didn't eat out of the pots of these men, who didn't get some support, politically, scholarship, and things like that. So here's Florent Wakuche, who brought so much development. The hospital we had in Oguta was almost as big as the Enugu Specialist Hospital. It had all the departments that a hospital would have. And it had a staff quarters. That staff quarters was full. More than 10 houses. That gives you an indication of the number of doctors that were there. Of course, we have Senator Omar Maduagu, another strong politician that was exemplary in the way he did his politics. You can imagine that you had Omar Maduagu on one side and Aton Zariba on another side, and they didn't burn the town down. The two of them were always politicking against each other, but they did not hire thugs with guns to shoot at each other. So we can still replicate that type of politics. Maji is our current politician, our current chairman of the local government. We have the one and only Isopadek MD that our deputy governor appointed for us. We would have benefited much more if that situation had continued. And of course, Deputy Governor, His Excellency, who did so much in the short time So these are icons, these are people we must get our used to emulate. We have to find ways of emulating these models. And that's why I'm putting these pictures up. You have Bishop Mwedo, and Mwapa was one of the picture on the right, bottom right is Dr. Alban's father. And the Ezigwe, this is the council force father. So I think maybe, Uche, if you can scroll up, I think we lost one slide up there. Can you, because I missed Justice Uputa's pictures. It's important to talk about Justice Uputa's briefly. Because, you know, for our people, if we see, Uche, can you go to the top of the picture story? To the top. I just have one or two slides more and I'm done. Can you go to the top, the very first picture slide? Up. One more. Yeah, let's start from here. Just give it some time to load.
It's blank.
Oh, it's not.
It's
okay.
blank.
I hope I don't get into trouble. There are some people I didn't. Oh, okay. So that's a glitch. Okay, but essentially,
there are some blank pages on.
Okay, I lost them then. Okay, so that's fine. But I've made the point I tried to make, that we have a collection of Oguta sons and daughters that have done so much in their selfless service to Oguta, and that we must continue to emulate them, try to bring back those days. We need to bring back the cohesion of the community. We need to be able to manage anytime we have differences, it doesn't need to go into getting talks to go and burn down people's houses or to do dangerous things that drive people away from the community. And you've already, both Aaron and and Innocent have talked about reinvigorating community development union. It's a challenge. We have to sit down and work to put our OCDU together as an umbrella that all of us can go inside and work together to bring the community back up. The capacity is there. Everybody's just doing their own thing. But we need to come together. We need to bring ourselves together and work as a collaborative team. And that's one of the things that we started the loop for, to stimulate this arrangement where we are talking to each other. Already, a lot of other groups are talking to themselves, but we now need to go merge them, integrate our community into the body politic of the state. We cannot really distance ourselves from the government of the day. What happens in most communities is that during elections, they work together, support any interest they have, but immediately after elections, we work together to become part of the organized politics. I can't see my slides again. So I'll just round up now. We also need to focus on our youth. The time when people expected that you can get employment for youths, employment can only come for 30, 40, 50 people, and that's for the whole country. The biggest organizations now cannot employ more than 100 people at a time. So the reality is that we have to stimulate entrepreneurship. Youth have to start learning how to be entrepreneurs. We have to prepare for an economy without oil and gas because the time is up. And then one of the areas we have to look to is ICT skills. Uche, one of the other tasks that I've been discussing with you is to set up a unit here, and Luke is going to work on that with you to get our students and our young ones introduced to ICT and prepare them for a life of artificial intelligence. So I think that I also align completely with the recommendations that the Deputy Governor has made regarding how the community can come together. He's brought in his experience as a politician around the bolts and nuts of how to get that going. So on that note, I want to thank you very much for listening and for giving me the opportunity to share my views on the historical perspectives and how to go forward on community development. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Oguagu. I'd like to thank you, Oguagu, for and thank everyone who has spoken so far. Before we continue to the very next session, I would just like us to listen to someone who is not from Oguta, who is a tourism advocate, said she heard we're doing this and she said this about Oguta. And I thought I should play it for us to listen to before we go into the panel session and I introduce the panelists for today. Thank you. Can you hear this? It's not playing, oh, sorry. Sorry, just 1 minute.
The melody, your sparkling on the radio, and solid 100.9 FM. I have been to Oguta. Because of Oguta Lake, it was an amazing experience for me. I never knew something like that existed so close to me in Igbo State, South Africa. I got to know about it through the channel. Posted some pictures of the talking and some friends that took Oguta Lake during the Start of South event. And it was simply amazing. There's a resort there, the Crystal Lake Resort. And I kept marveling. I saw pictures and I promised myself that I would go there. And eventually I went there earlier this year in February. It was wonderful. I mean, I strongly believe in local tourism. I strongly believe in promoting what we have. I am too short and not to make people know about this event. So, this December, 4th to 6th December, precisely, I'm taking another group of people, friends, and anyone who cares to join us to go for this trip. Oguta Lake is beautiful. Oguta is also fine. I met beautiful, warm, hospitable people there, and I really have a good time. I think we should do more implementing.
Thank you. Just before I introduce the panelists, please, I just want to run a poll, and if you allow me, there is a poll that's going to show on your screen shortly in 60 seconds. Just click on, just do a choice. Just click on it and let's see what it is. I'm going to share the result afterwards. Please, the poll is running. Can you confirm you can see it? In 60 seconds, I would take it off. Twenty seconds more. All right. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to just share the results. The result says 74% of the people on this call today think that we should focus on tourism as a community. Only 3% thinks oil and gas, and 16% thinks technology, and 6% thinks industry. All right, coming up next to this conversation are leaders of different associations that have, in recent times, taken it upon themselves to do, they've taken it upon themselves to intervene in Oguta, and in the course of our planning of this program, we thought that it was important to hear from all of them and hear their visions and understand what the association is doing, and so that we can know how to harmonize all of those things they are doing together as one. Now, they are going to be coming, I'm going to be playing their videos. So I'm going to play the association. The first association I'm going to play their video is the Oguta National USA. Mr. Obika Nobi is going to tell us about Oguta National Association USA. Yes, it's not just one. Oh, I'm sharing the wrong stuff. Okay. Okay, just 1 minute. Okay.
Hello all. My name is Obika Nobi. I'm the National Secretary of the Oguta National Association USA. I'm making this short video to introduce you to our association and to reaffirm our association's commitment to the Reimagine Oguta initiative. The Oguta National Association was founded in 1999 with several objectives, and here are some of them. First, to help foster development, which will help in improvement of lives of Oguta people, both in Nigeria and in North America. To foster unity among Oguta sons and daughters who reside in North America, to help protect, preserve, and teach Oguta culture to Oguta children, especially those that live in North America, and to help our members in need as deemed fit by the association. The Oguta National Association has several chapters located all around North America, with a total membership of more than 250. Our current national president is Ogbuefi Barrister Ifeoma Okan. Past presidents include Ogbuago Professor Ike Azor and Ogbuago Ato Ojirika. Normally, the association has several events throughout the year in North America. But our showcase event is the Oguta National Convention, which takes place normally during the Labor Day weekend, early September, in the United States. Over the years, the Oguta National Association has carried out several projects in line with our objective of helping to improve the lives of Oguta people. Let me run through some of them. Our association donated more than 50 brand new computers this year to the Oguta Mariana Assumpta Oguta Girls High School. We also provided more than 10 million naira worth of COVID palliatives to our brothers and sisters in Oguta. But historically, in between 2004 and 2011, we awarded more than 50 university scholarships to Oguta individuals. Also, in 2004 to 6, we renovated the water recirculation system of the Oguta General Hospital. Over the years as well, we donated 15 brand new motorcycles to the Oguta police, as well as the Oguta Vigilante Group. We did 2 work disciplines for the primary schools in Oguta around 2015 and 2018. I can assure you that we'll be unveiling new projects in the near future. And I'm also here to tell you that our association is committed and we are able to work with other entities to make sure that our hometown is developed and ready for the 21st and 22nd century. And we are affirming our commitment to the Reimagine Oguta initiative. Thank you all for taking the time and have a blessed day.
Good day, my people. Shiji, Damande, Ogushi, Chamaji, my name is Ichoma Dibolo, and I am presently the Vice President of Oguta UK Ireland Association. I just want to make this short video to introduce the association and also to reaffirm our support with what is happening with Reimagine Oguta. Oguta UK Association was founded in 1997 with the primary objective enshrined in the Constitution to promote love, peace, unity, and understanding among Oguta people in the UK, and to create a platform to discuss issues affecting their welfare and progress. There is also an objective to promote the overall development of Oguta and our people. The current executive was elected into office on the 8th of February 2020 on the back of the 3-6 policy of collaboration, cooperation, and compassion, around which programs and interventions revolve. The executive set up 6 committees to drive the vision, namely Welfare Committee, Healthcare Committee, Business and Professional Committee, Cultural Committee, Fundraising Committee, and the Youth Committees, with clear defined terms of reference all targeted towards the welfare of members and the development of Oguta. The association collaborates with various Oguta people and other groups and other Igbo organizations in the United Kingdom. The committees have made significant progress. Our young people met for the first time in the history of the association as a group, and I think it is fantastic. The vision to develop their social capital and interest in Oguta is key. They are our future stars in Ireland in April 2020 and changed its name to Oguta UK and Ireland Association, formerly known as Oguta Association. The association has various programs and projects in Oguta, including talk show on One Radio Oguta, intervention in the security arrangement in Oguta, an association of Southeast Town. The association shares the global vision of our people to develop Oguta into a 21st century modern, prosperous, and safe community with vital public service and infrastructure where everyone is empowered to thrive. We will continue to collaborate and cooperate with our people to realize this objective. This is where we come in, and this is why we support the initiative of the Reimagine Oguta. Thank you very much, my people. Thank you, Heather.
All right, thank you, everyone. Every one of them, all the association representatives are live here right now, and in a few minutes, in a panel session that is led by Professor Michael Ozoka, they are going to try and elaborate more and then open up the conversation for everybody to talk. I see in the chat, where people are discussing and they're saying, why wasn't education as part of the poll questions that were asked? So I think that the time has come for us to have all of those conversations. And as you continue to join the remaining sessions, you're going to be able to contribute even more. And I think it is okay that we're having those chats already in the group. So I'm going to play their profiles very quickly so that we can just move forward. Yeah, I know.
Science and Information Systems at Mount Royal University, Calgary, Canada. Faith Michael has made noteworthy contributions to educational and community development in Africa. He facilitated the donation of over 8,000 volumes of books to Nigerian universities/colleges. He is also co-founder and director of several organizations, including Cambrooks College, Hampton's International School, Novena Educational Consult, and Novena Systems and Technologies. He served as a Canadian Commonwealth Scholar, Carnegie African Diaspora Fellow, and Senior Research Advisor, SPDC Nigeria. A professor of computer science and information. He is the Vice President of Oguta UK and Ireland Association. He holds a BSc Honours in Political Science from Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Alca, before proceeding to Alpha Meridian College for a Diploma in Information System Management. He has over 35 years public and private sector experience in corporate management, design and execution of projects, project monitoring, and evaluation. His proficiency in coordination of project teams has seen him perform these roles in major federal government and private sector projects. He was a highly motivated and accomplished professional with over 25 years experience in business intelligence, IT and computer programming. He has designed business intelligence solutions for several clients in the United States, including Facebook, Google, Yahoo, Hilton Hotel, Department of Defense, Department of State, and the Federal Reserve. He is the National Secretary of the Oguta National Association, USA, and currently a technical advisor at Data Strong in Fairfax, Virginia. A highly motivated and accomplished professional.
Thank you, Professor Faith. You can take over from here.
Thank you so much, Ndibani, Noni, Ndengem Nandenge. It is wonderful that we're here today to discuss Oguta. In fact, I've been inspired and touched by the speeches made by His Excellency, who took the cultural perspective to going back to the basics. Innocent Chukwuma gave us a global model for community development that is sustainable. He talked about sustainability in community development, which is very key, because any effort that we make today that is not sustainable is a waste of time. And Obuagu Ernest Nwapa took us through the historical lane, the historical perspective, history lane of Oguta as a community. And they have set the stage for a conversation that we're going to have today about the development of Oguta, reimagining Oguta. I welcome the panelists, members of or representatives of the community associations today. I look at the number of participants and I see that we are 44 online. There are so many other participants that are not on this chart who are viewing us via radio and via other broadcast means. But today, I think we're setting the groundwork, we're setting the brickwork for the development of Oguta, and the conversations that we're going to have today. The panelists will give us their views and all of us will participate. And I encourage everybody to ask questions. Ask questions, send your questions through the chat. I hope that someone will be looking at the questions alongside myself. Uche will be looking at the questions, but I'll try to capture all the questions that you ask. And mind you, no question is insignificant and no question is stupid. Every question is vital to the development of Oguta. Now, we just want to start by asking the panelists a generalized question. And that generalized question is, what do you think about Oguta today? And what do you think about Oguta tomorrow? In 1 minute, each of the panelists. So I'll probably start by inviting Obika Nwobi to please take the lead.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Obika Nwobi. I live in Maryland, USA. I'm the Oguta National Association Secretary. What do I think of Oguta today? If I think of Oguta in terms of education, non-existent, very meager. In terms of infrastructure, still very not good. What do I think of Oguta tomorrow? It could be better, and we cannot make effort to make it better. So today, not good. Tomorrow could be better. Thank you.
Thank you so much. May I ask Ivan to please honing on that, do you have ideas on how Oguta could be better tomorrow? Ivan Unanya, please. Ivan, you're muted. Ivan, can you please unmute yourself?
Am I good to go now?
Yes, you are.
Thank you very much. Very simple. Oguta, I believe, will be very great tomorrow. For today, we are really on the bad side. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ijoma, what does the Oguta Association in Ireland and the UK think about the Oguta of tomorrow?
Hello. Yes, thank you very much. We are very hopeful that things will be better tomorrow. But as of today, like everybody, like we all can see, it's not. And the question is, why is it not? I think that should be the question we will ask ourselves. Why is it not good? But we are optimistic that it will be better, but at present, it's not good at all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Is Obinna Ofili here on this panel? It's supposed to be on this panel representing Luke.
That's what Ivan is doing.
Pardon me?
Ivan is representing Loop.
Okay, okay, thank you so much. So thank you so much. And that was trying to set the stage, in terms of our mindset for today's discussion. But going back to the talks that we heard, His Excellency talked about going back to the traditional basics as a mechanism for holding people accountable, as a mechanism for demanding our rights, as a mechanism for community building and unity of purpose. I'd want to start with Ivan Unanya. How do you think we can navigate our way back to that point where the traditional institutions in Oguta become viable, become veritable mechanisms for coalescing people's thoughts and holding people accountable in Oguta? Ivan, you're muted. Please, all speakers, leave yourselves unmuted unless there is a background noise that you have to filter out.
Thank you very much. I think His Excellency, the Deputy Governor, the past Deputy Governor, my junior brother, has done a lot to try to explain to us, to try to track that aspect of using the traditional institutions. I, on my own part, believe that OCD should be strengthened. OCD should take the lead in trying its best in terms of progressing us in development. Between the traditional institutions and OCDU, I think, and I believe in it, the community will not have so much to fear. The idea of one government coming in and then partisanship in apportioning largesse will no longer be part of our problem. We should be able to develop ourselves, develop our community, using the structures that we have. And those structures are basically the traditional institutions and our OCD. Anything we get from government, anything we attract from government, anything we attract from oil and gas industries, anything we attract from our friends and institutions will only help us if the bedrock of it is a traditional institution and OCD. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Could I crave the indulgence of His Excellency, because he brought this topic and it's a very crucial topic. Could I ask His Excellency to shed a little light, just 1 minute, on probably ways we can revitalize, one, the OCDU, and secondly, our traditional institutions, and enable that kind of collaborative effort or working together in order to advance the cause of the Oguta Nation. And I hope that at the end of these conversations, we are going to have a communique which will detail ways of dealing with some of these developmental issues. His Excellency, please, thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me use this opportunity to commend our brothers in diaspora, UK, Ireland, America, and Canada for what you've been doing. I appreciate so much. I want to say that OCD as a veritable platform to navigate the development of Oguta is very important, very essential. And how do we do it? During the short period I ran as the deputy governor of Imo State, I ensured that town unions, community-based organizations were driven by the community. And within that period, we had a caretaker committee for OCDU. How were they composed? The critical stakeholders in Oguta, from Ezigwe, the Ogene in Council, that is in Dokpara, the women wing, all nominated people into the immediate past dissolved OCDU. Government does not have the right, I quote, government does not have the power to constitute or to dissolve town unions. And there is a judicial precedent where OCDU was dissolved and Oguta community people went to court and challenged the legality of the government to do that. And the court said that the government does not have the power to dissolve town union. Government can regulate the operations of the town union. So every community must take back their town union, be able to ensure that it is used as a veritable platform for the development of the community. I give you an instance. Our brothers have been mentioning how they've been given equipment. I could recall when Obika mentioned the issue of motorcycle given to security. Where are the motorcycles now? You don't donate directly to the police because the DPO there, when leaving, you go away with it. But you donate to the community, and the community, through the Community Police Relation Committee, we hold it in trust. So any DPO living will not see it as his personal property. But when you donate to the police, a DPO is living, he will go with it. And the community, which you donated it for his interest, will be left without those equipment, which you labored to raise your hard-earned money to purchase. So I want to think, and I believe, that OCDU should be a body that will aggregate and be able to warehouse all your donations Otherwise, you just be wasting your hard-earned currencies, doing what you're doing and donating, and some people through the back will be wasting what you've donated. Secondly, there must be a need assessment. There must be a need assessment. The OCDU should be able to sit down and prioritize what the community needs and say, this is what we want. And our brothers in diaspora will be able to come to our support. So the OCDU is a community-based organization. And let me tell you the easiest way we can fashion a sustainable OCDU. We have 27 villages in Oguta. It has been done before. You call a meeting, that's what I said, there should be Ndiche, because Ndiche must be on the ground first, because it is Ndiche that gave the impetus, the authority to the OCDU to function. OCDU is functioning in trust for the custodians of the community, and the custodians of the communities, Bundiche. So Ndiche must be able to nominate 5 Oguta sons and daughters that will midwife OCDU. And how do you midwife it? Every village must nominate 1 representative. And you have 27 representatives. In a collegiate form, they will elect among themselves. If you want 5-man OCDU, 7-man OCDU, 8-man OCDU, they will sit down, 27 of them will sit down with those people nominated by Ndiche to midwife a credible OCDU. That credible OCDU shall be given a time frame upon which they will dust the OCDU constitution, which have gone several amendments in the last OCDU to cure the issue of sit-tie syndrome. A BOT was crafted, and that BOT was made to regulate and organize the election of the OCDU. So OCDU is a well-regulated body with its constitution. However, we the politicians should take responsibility. We the politicians try to politicize it. But I'm saying that when I was there, I tried to get the traditional institution to nominate the OCDU. So it is only when you have OCDU fully nominated by Oguta people, that Professor Faith, that Engineer Neswapa, that Engineer Avanunanya will have confidence to work with. Anything outside that, anything nominated by politician will not work, because a politician from Divide A will not have interest to work under that body. A politician from Platform B will not have interest to work. So you must have OCDU where Oguta sons and daughters will have a confidence in, believing, and they will be able to summon stakeholders meeting, and Oguta people will come and address issues and set an agenda for the development of the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, His Excellency. This other question is talking about restoration. I see the question on that chart. How do we restore trust among Oguta citizens to be able to contribute? You know that it was one of the topics that the keynote speaker addressed, restoring trust, because a number of people would not want to contribute simply because they believe that some person will see that project as his means of making money, which is very sad and painful. It looks like people going to the lowest level of existence to rely on charity in order to enrich themselves. I want to ask Obuago N.S. Nwapa, if you wouldn't mind, to chime in on how people, the Oguta people, both home and abroad, can have a renewed confidence in the organs existing currently and probably future organs of community development such that they can contribute their quota when the need arises.
Thank you, Prof. I think it comes down again to this question of a credible community development union. We've been doing a lot of self-help by creating that concerns us, Loop, the diasporan organizations, age grades, all sorts of organizations trying to do things, and everybody is in its own silo doing things. We need to get down to the OCDU. But this OCDU thing is very tricky. As the deputy governor has said, when he was in office, he tried to organize a structured approach to getting the OCDU thing going. But even with the efforts he made, you will hear discussions that OCDU is our first OCDU. So it is a difficult thing. The thing has to start from what the deputy governor said before. Let the indices sit. Let us have a serious group of people, the indices and the traditional organizations, such that they will be the ones initiating this activity. There's some discussion that trended very seriously during when the chairman of the local government appointed this new OCDU. And when people challenged him for appointing this OCDU, another counter group said, the one that was removed, how was he appointed? So once we have that type of arrangement, it creates this same problem. Now, with what is going on today, we need to be practicing that model, the model of the OCDU, creating a platform that we will now use when the headship of the OCDU is organized. I think the suggestion of getting the 27 villages to come together and create a college that will now appoint a committee that would organize an election within a given time is a way to go. On the question of trust, I don't know when we just began to look at everybody as fraudulent, especially people who live abroad. Somehow, if you want to do anything, we wanted to get money to pay teacher salaries. The reaction was like, if you give them money, they will use it for other things. It is not that bad. We still have credible Oguta sons and daughters that go do things on behalf of the community without any personal interest. In fact, those people are known. So it is important that we give a little respect to those of our sons and daughters that volunteer to do things. It's not really as bad. Once we begin to give people assignments and test them, when we say we are going to collect money from Oguta people and pay teachers, it is not an easy thing for people to bring money out. That's the role of government. And if the government was employing teachers and paying them, it wouldn't be our responsibility. So these things, while we are planning to get this OCDU thing done, we need to continue to recognize some people who can do these things. And in these organizations, you find people that everybody can tell you, this guy has integrity, this guy has integrity. So back to the OCDU question, we need to take a practical approach. And I think the deputy governor can help in clarifying or designing the models, because there are things you would do and the politicians in the community why is this coming from here? Where is it coming from? We can get a neutral way of doing it, get the 27 villages, the operas of the 27 villages, give us somebody. But again, it's got to be anchored by the indices. It's got to be anchored by the Ezigwe in council. So what I would suggest is that we in our communique, let us highlight this issue of OCDU. Let us get help from an experienced politician that, like the deputy governor, who would give us the angles. How do we do it without the party A believing that somebody is setting up something that he will use for a future election? Because that's the suspicion, that's the real suspicion. So once we do that, we will follow through. If we have these groups, if we have Loop, if we have the diasporan associations, if we have the OCDU branches that are, because OCDU has branches outside Oguta that have been functioning for years. If we have those people together and a group writes out a stage by stage, then we will sell it to the politicians. We will call the local government chairman and we tell him that we want to have an OCDU that everybody will respect. And we give ourselves a time frame. If it means going to Owerri to talk to the governor, we will go to Owerri. The Oguta people will go to Owerri and talk to the governor. I say we want our town union to be independent. We will be regulated by government, but allow the governance structure to set it up. And we will make sure that it is not done in such a way that it will create any impression that it's a political party driven or it is driven in any way that is suspicious. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Obuago Ernest Nwapa. He raised very vital points. And one of the points is that we should not paint everybody with the same brush. That we had one or two cases of mismanagement of funds does not mean that everybody in Oguta on ground at home is fraudulent. So we must decide on that trust-based approach to community development, which is very, very critical. Because if there is lack of trust, then we're going to have problems. And then it's also vital to understand that accountability is the bedrock of community development. We talked about accountability issues. His Excellency talked about accountability. Everybody talked about accountability. But going back to some of the questions that we have and linking it to OCDU and Oguta taking the lead in deciding on how to govern Oguta. There's a question on the chart that talks about government responsibility, the local authority, the local government council. How do we ensure that the local authorities do their part? The keynote speaker talked about the rights-based approach. That community development is a civil right. It is our right. So how do we ensure that government is able to do what they should do, and that Oguta takes the lead in making sure that that happens? I will ask Ijoma Dibwe to chime in on this, and thereafter, Ivan Unanya would probably touch on that as well. Ijoma, please.
Thank you very much. I don't know what's wrong with my camera is playing up a little bit. Yes, thank you. I would like to say something on what Obuago said about trust and stuff. I think about the people in diaspora are not trusting the people back home. I think it's got nothing to do with trust, but most of the time I think is the feedback and we want to get enough feedback because when you invest in something, you want to have someone to give you a feedback to let you know what is happening. We are not there on ground, so we need that feedback. And then we also need to see a kind of transparency. And we talked about accountability as well. And then once we know that there is somebody that we can hold accountable if anything goes wrong, or somebody that that will report to us what is happening, and then be giving us feedback from time to time, I think that will eliminate that that case of trust and stuff. Having said that, the OCDU, I think, is like Honorable said, he has a fantastic idea on how to form a good OCDU. In my view, I think OCDU should not be political. They should be, because it is actually for the benefit of the community. So there should be nothing political about it, whether PDP, APC, PNN, wherever it is for the development of Oguta and not for the development of any political party. So having said that, I think that should be the way forward, having an OCDU that is independent and is not associated or affiliated to any political party. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ivan.
Yes, thank you very much. I do believe that the system propounded by His Excellency and then the comments that Boag and Smapa made on OCD is really a way forward to go. I really sympathize with Ndobodo on the distrust they have, what they seem to have about people who handle their matters back here in Nigeria. The people that we call hands on ground. The truth of it is that they come from a place that things work well. Over here, it doesn't work as well. Over here, it is not very easy for somebody who is entrusted with these things to really do it, put the accounts the way it's expected. But I'm sure that now that everybody is worried about accounting, about due process, about satisfying the people who bring the money, it will get better. I also want to really ask everyone to understand that the people that are on ground, that are doing these things, are also contributing very seriously, and they feel bad when their images are really maligned. Thank you very much.
Professor,
Thank you so
can
much.
Can I chime in for a second?
Okay, Obika, yeah, please.
Yes, just talking about the trust of our folks back home, I kind of have a different, we here in the US, we have a different experience with, we donated 50 computers to the Maria Sumter Oguta High School, and we work with Duke Nanebo. I think at that time he was the president of OCDU, and I can tell you that he did a marvelous job. I mean, better than anybody you can think of, in terms of accountability and in terms of just giving us every cost and the delivery and everything. We also work with him and his team at when we did we donated the 10 million naira worth of palliatives in July. So even though maybe there are some mistrust or distrust of people back home, I don't think it's universal. Okay, some of us still have faith in people back home. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think the general affirmation here is that there is trust. We have that trust element, and we also have all agreed that there is need for feedback and communication where there is, lack of communication, then people are left to start thinking in various dimensions. So there is trust, and we must ensure that there is feedback, communication, and accountability, which is what we are known for. I will allow Uche Aniche to chime in. He wants to contribute to the question about local government involvement and state government involvement in the development of Oguta.
Thank you very much, Prof. I just wanted, I want to thank the people that have responded earlier on. I was just concerned that, I was a bit concerned that the question, that question was not being understood, but I understand because there's an overwhelming, issue that people wanted to address. So I see the tendency, for us to want to go that way, but that question needed to be addressed. The first thing, first and foremost, the purpose for this conversation is because, yeah, we have had the local government and the government at all levels are still very, very important institutions, and they have very important roles to play in every community, as it were. But there's something that we need to realize. We're already doing a lot of the things that we're asking or we're expecting government to do. And this conversation really is not about government doing, but I think that this conversation is about how do we, as a people, reorganize or rearrange what we are already doing in order to achieve better results for ourselves. We can have another conversation another time to talk about what the government can do. So in this session and in the sessions to come, let us focus our attention on how we can do better, how we can arrange better, so that what we're already doing can be more impactful. So after we finish this conversation, we can then go back and ask ourselves, now that we have arranged ourselves and we're doing better, what is the government doing for us? And how can we reorientate or redirect what they are doing for us? Mr. Chukuma, Mr. Innocent Chukuma, when he was talking, gave some inklings or inclinations into what we could possibly, directions we could possibly take. And I think we should pay attention to those to those conversations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Uche. The key is that we're focusing on our discussions on community development, and the individuals that are putting up the questions also believe that it ties to what we can make the government do, because they have a responsibility in order for us to have a sustainable community development. Now, and that ties to what the keynote speaker talked about, and that's about community foundation. Community foundation, setting up a foundation and leveraging on that foundation to talk to individuals, to talk to organizations, to talk to government and say, this is what we're doing, and we want you to come to our aid. And he also talked about community visibility. Community visibility, especially at this era of technology. You go online and you type in Oguta Community Development Association Union, OCDU. Are you going to find an OCDU website? Are you going to find a Loop website? Are you going to find websites for all the things that we're doing? How do we gain visibility? And how do we think about this foundation? Is the idea of a foundation a good one? And if it's a good one, how do we go about it? I'll throw this open so both the panelists and the participants can chime in on this. Is the idea of foundation a good one? And how do we go about it? If you're a participant and you want to speak, please raise your hand, turn on your video, and we'll let you speak. And this will be for about, we'll let everybody speak for about 30 seconds. Probably 30 seconds to 1 minute at the most. So if you want to contribute to this idea of foundation and community visibility, this is the opportunity to do so.
If you let me know who you're asking to talk, I will simply just promote them to panelists so that they can talk at once and we take them off as well. So,
okay, so if you want to talk, please type in your name on the text, the chat box, and we'll give you the opportunity to talk for about 30 seconds to 1 minute.
People are already raising their hands. I can see Adi.
Them. I'm not able to see them at my end.
Okay, I can help you from here. So
okay, please.
Idu's hand is up. Afam is up. So I'll just take. Let me take. Adigwe, please.
Take them in the order that they raise their hands. But please, all speakers should keep it to 30 seconds, 30 to 40 seconds, at most 1 minute.
Please go ahead.
Network bandwidth is low. Network bandwidth weight is low.
Okay, so
okay, move to the next.
Okay.
Obiara has joined. Okay, let's go to Afam. Afam, please unmute yourself and turn on your video. Idu, you can go ahead. Idu, go ahead.
I actually said that I would yield to the other participants since I'm going to be speaking later. That's fine. Is anybody else there that wants to speak?
But you're here already, so go ahead and talk because your hand was up.
Well, I really believe that
your video is off. Your video is off.
My video is off. Oh, sorry, love. I'm sorry. I had my webcam up. Has it started? Hi, Obika. Stop laughing. I can see you. Why is it not coming up? I'm clicking start video. For whatever reason, it's not. Okay, imagine you're seeing me. Let's not waste time. If it comes on, you'll see me. That's all right. I think that the biggest themes I'm hearing is that we need one organization. And for what I think we should do is harness technology and grab everybody. So the whole concept of trust and getting things done, I totally believe that there's not 99.9% of people in Nigeria that are thieves. Just as we have horrible people in Nigeria, we have people like you there. Let those of us who have common interests and agreements work together. Let's come together. We can do it. We'll use technology. We'll utilize all of the tools at our disposal, and we have to do it. It's not a choice. It's doable. We can do it. We'll get that foundation. We'll get the website. We'll get the database. We have a process. We put the business processes together, and we'll do it. It's not rocket science. What we just need to do is keep our eye on the cup of water that we must take to cross over and not listen to the detractors. That's my take. Thank you, everybody. So ahead.
Thank you. Who is the next?
All right. Please, when we are talking about development, Oguta development,
please, your video needs to be on.
Yeah, here is very dark. I can't play the video here. My network is having issues.
Okay, go ahead.
Please, when we are talking about development, I think the main thing we should look into here is the human development. Because whatsoever the government and the OCDE is going to do in Oguta, if the masses, the people in Oguta doesn't understand what they are doing, I don't think it's going to work. So whatever we are going to do, I think the best thing is, first of all, create an awareness, a public address where you can talk to people in Oguta, change their mindset first, train them on what they should know so that when the technology comes in, they can adapt easily. Because for instance, you can't go to an undeveloped city and start fixing traffic lights to them because they don't know the value. And they will just overlook it and go their way. But when they know the value and the implicates, then when you train them on that, they will know and everybody will want to obey it. But in Oguta, I believe that where we really have problem is human development. Human development, because people in Oguta doesn't understand it. And whereby they don't understand it, whatsoever you're going to do for them, they will not value it and they will not respect it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Obiora. It's human development is a critical aspect of community development. I'm sure that we'll have other panel sessions that we will be discussing various aspects of human development. We recognize that for us to have those elements, we need to build the bricks, the foundation to be able to get to those ones. So let us keep this in mind as we continue our discussion, that human development is also a very critical aspect of community development. Professor Afam.
Prof, if I may, before Professor Afam comes on, Obiora, tomorrow is dedicated to human capacity development. So you should come tomorrow and let's have that conversation in full. Okay? Thank you.
Yeah, Prof. Prof, you are muted. Please, can you unmute yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, I had my doubts as to where any such funds for foundation will be domiciled. However, Idu, in her contribution, gave a little insight as to where such funds can be domiciled. We can harness it for community development. So institution where the funds will be domiciled. There it goes. Because we Loop, I'm not speaking for Loop because we have Loop right there. Well, Loop has started with security for 3 or 4 years. Thereafter, it's no more there. And it's not as if the security needs have been satisfied. No. Loop is also trying it with education. I can't see them driving. Right now, the funds for Loop, the project Loop is driving is about 5.4 million naira. And the question is, can we keep doling out 5.5 million naira for the next 10, 15, 20 years? It's in doubt. So if you talk about sustainability, like Mr. Innocent Chukuma said, then the only answer will be to look for a foundation. But in looking for a foundation, we also have to talk about a credible one from which, but even at that, the banks and the institutions that you can domicile your funds are those who have accounts in what do you call it again? I don't do things like that. I found that the investments in different banks or in different institutions, especially in the past 6 months, is nothing to write home about. So you begin to doubt if you open up a foundation now and dump in your institution, how much will you get from it annually as to drive your community development projects? But by and large, I think it's worth trying. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. I think the key is agreeing on the principles, and then the modalities, like Prof said, because of some complexities in the financial system, we may be very deliberate about the modalities, but the key is agreeing on the principles. The keynote speaker talked about the 3 key elements the people, the program, and the platform. And then we're talking about the platform. So if we agree that we need to set up a foundation, then other discussions around who is going to be hosting that foundation would come up. We have also agreed that we're going to be revitalizing OCDU as we know OCDU. And then other organizations like Loop will be very vital in this process. So we can work out the mechanics later. But the principle is what?
Sorry, sir. So the next person is Marilyn.
Yeah, Marilyn, please. Marilyn, you are muted, and please share your video.
I'll mute myself.
And your video.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. I've listened a lot this evening. I've had a lot, and I thank the DG for seeing for the first time in a very long time. So everything that has been spoken and said, yeah, I would say that it's not all bad, but there are a lot of issues which in 30 seconds we can address. So I hope the discussion continues. And the issue of OCDU should be in the forefront, like the DG said. It should be in the forefront that we make this institution. I do not really know why all our institution has vanished or has degenerated or diminished. But the issue of OCDU should be taken very, very important. I'm a member of Loop. I've tried adding my own, my own strength and energy to making sure that Oguta will be what they can be. And I may not have all the money in the world, but I know I have the voice. And since I have the voice, I will always speak. And I do not want anybody to gag me. I do not want also anybody to think that if it's not Loop, it cannot be any other thing. So we have to, do this discussion collectively and understand each other and know exactly where we're moving to. And that will be my statement this evening. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Marilyn. Who is the next? And we'll take two more. Pardon me?
Yeah, so they're just Nkenabchi Oputa. So I have to promote, if you can hear me, let me just promote. Okay, please, Oputa, please go ahead. Please, can you hear me? Please.
Please unmute yourself.
Please go ahead. That's my earpiece. Okay, so Priscilla can go ahead if we're not taking.
And we just take, after Priscilla, we take one more and we move over to the next topic.
Sorry, I don't know. Can you hear me? Can anybody hear me? Can you guys hear me? Okay, so how come nobody's responding to me? Prof, can you hear me, please?
Yes,
I can hear you. We can hear you. What's going on?
Yes,
okay, please. Okay, I had allowed 2 people to talk, but I didn't hear them talk, so I was wondering. So can I promote Millicent Azog?
Can you hear me? Please.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, I want to talk about trust. Now, if we solve the problem of trust, then we will be able to mobilize a whole lot of Oguta people to participate.
Okay, Millicent can go ahead, please. Millicent Azog. Millicent Azog, please.
Yourself and share your video.
Unmute yourself and put your video on.
Okay. Professor Azogo. Yes. You can Madunino. If I can
video.
Also, Buenam, Oboroni. If I knew that Goshinonya Obana, nobody knew the animpa. Obodo di soy. Une Goshina, no bo aninga, called in Ido Jobudani. Onye kwa ba ya mkpokoro ewura ndị ọzọ wura akpụ ntụ. So if you name the in line with ife ejiri mara Oguta, ya bụ ụbọrụ nkari kani na ani akari. You see, Oguta is a very unique community. Unu check ya history ya ngani shira bini urebia rules ani no. Many people have spoken on this, particularly the deputy governor who gave us some insight on our past history. Ndeshina Bini Urebiaru Oguta in those days had all it took to fight off all kinds of obstacles on their way. Urebiaru Zono, Biakwa set up all kinds of protections to guide the community, to protect the community, to ensure unity and peace among the people. Mana, the success we've achieved so far in our history, that there was so much reliance on our traditional institutions to guide us. From the monarchy down to Ndiche, down to various age groups and so on, as had been mentioned. So, problem our traditional structure is completely dysfunctional. Obodo anyị gbaghara enye the leadership. So nkata na iruro naanị na anyị atụ. Ma enye a center, the united, the committed. Oyara anyị ahụ. Ya bụ anyị na-akari ife anyị akari bikoni. We have to make sure Nani set it up. Make sure na nsogbu na anyị n'obodo now in our traditional structure not the addressed. And then in the deputy governor himself knows. We are honest. Na bi Oguta regularly my obodo there is no cohesion. So, Bikoni, I sent a text message on that. I don't know whether it was received. This is a core issue. So, Anina Khalifa, Akari, because let us pay special attention to this fact.
Thank you, Onyoke Mbona.
Prof, Prof. Stefani Uzoka chọrọ ikwu okwu ka maybe okwucha ka ọ bụrụzie ya na-ekwu.
Okay.
I'm piggybacking on the issue of trust and the limitations it is imposing on our development. The issue of trust is very important, is very key. We cannot make headway if there is no trust amongst us. And for us to have trust, there must be proper governance. Where there is lack of governance, trust will break down. People are not going to contribute. We cannot be in a situation, Oguta, where only a few people want to determine what is done. It cannot lead us far. We have gone far beyond that. If we have to move forward, we need distributed leadership. Distributed leadership. Nobody's knowledge supersede the knowledge of the entire people in Oguta. All we need to do is let people come together, give us a governance structure, whatever association it is. We know there is proper governance. Then we can have accountability and transparency. We can question what is happening. I mean, you cannot, no representation, no taxation. If you want us to contribute, we must be represented. Leadership cannot be handpicked. Throw it open, we are all conversing. We can vote from anywhere. We select our leaders. And then another thing is proper planning. Ndibani, we are not planning in the modern days. We are just doing, what's the name, ad hoc stuff. Oh, this is a problem, we come, we kill it. Professor Fan mentioned something about the security. That Loop tried to organize security in Oguta. It did not work. Why would you think that it will work when you have 54 people that are working at the same time? Do you need 54 security people working every day in Oguta? But if you throw it open, people will come with suggestions. Oh, Oguta, let us divide it into these places. All right, we have 54. Why don't we have 13 people working every night, every 2 weeks, so that it will reduce the financial strain? The education has come out. We are all there to work on it. Education Committee of Loop has a very, very standard documentation that was made in 2017 on how to move Oguta forward. Where is the implementation? So Ndibani Bikoni, we need to come together, but it will be in a distributed leadership form. We need proper governance structure so that there will be accountability and transparency. Then the trust will come and the funds are going to follow. We, Onyobuna, whatever you can do, that's how we are here today. Nuti Nokaru could use his position in NEPA to give us light. Floranwa Kuche, she could use her position to facilitate some of the things that we have in Oguta. Recently, people, Eyirinde Madonna, Obuago Oputiwo Orisha, he used his position. He put people in positions and that kind of mitigated a lot of problems in Oguta. So the question for you and I today is, who are we grooming to be our successors? How many years do we have in active service? If we cannot replicate what these other people did to get us where we are today, then Oguta is gone. So we need to come together. Onye Obona, whatever little you can do. Uche, I never knew you before, but look at what you have done. You used your skills
know.
If we have lost him, I would like to.
It looks like we've lost Ifeanyi. Prof, thank you so much for your contributions. We are concluding. I know now. We will discuss this to the end of the day, but we are creating the basic framework. At the end of everything, we will probably be setting up a small committee to prepare a communique which we will act upon. Just one quick one before, pardon me? Is it on the issue of trust? Because Amamna, you talked about the trust element. Is he on again?
He's dropped off. He dropped off again. Continue.
Okay, so quickly, and that is about integrating the community into the political fabrics of the state and the nation. Him and we were very fortunate to have His Excellency. We've also been fortunate to have the politicians in those days who contributed meaningfully to the development of Oguta. When an Oguta person, one of the things they may enable some political institutions or families, but that they know when to go in. And once Obonyenke, let the person go in. In the Ausashi, kama oya abuna onye na abudi onye Ausaya chika ewu Ausachia. That's their belief. So how do we do it? How do we ensure that we contribute to the political fabrics of the states and the country, and starting from the local government? So I'll let Obi Kanwobi say something, and then I know that two people that can really guide us in this properly, both His Excellency and Ernest Nwapa. But I'll let Obi Kanwobi.
Prof, before you continue, can I just say something?
Yes,
we have run out of our time. I know we're having important conversations, but it's also important that we begin to implement trust by making sure that when we say we'll end in 2 hours, we end in 2 hours, right? We actually promised people. We promised people we're going to stay 2 hours. I mean, we've stayed extra 1 hour, 16 minutes. You know,
that's crazy.
I would like to plead that anybody coming up now is able to summarize whatever they want to say in 60 seconds, so that we can have the vote. 3 more days to have conversations, and a lot of the things we're discussing are components of the conversations we still have ahead. You know, I don't want, so please.
Okay, thank you, Uche and Iche. Please, Obi Kanwobi, can you take 30 seconds? And then we allow Ernest Nwapa 1 minute and His Excellency 1 minute.
Okay, I will just summarize in terms of the Oguta National Association. The Oguta National Association is willing and able, and we are ready to work with all the entities in Oguta to make sure Oguta is ready. Okay, so I thank the Deputy Governor, I thank Obuago, Ernest Nwapa, and I thank all the panelists and all the participants today for our commitment to Oguta. And I'm hoping that tomorrow will be better than today. Thank you.
Thank you. Obuago Ernest Nwapa, can you touch on the topic integrating Oguta into the body politics of the state?
Okay,
just for 1 minute.
Thank you. I would also want to be very brief and say that it is a process that starts from coming together first as Oguta people. If we can come together as Oguta people, then we have a common front. In Oguta, there are people who belong to parties. There are people who don't belong to parties. There are people who are friends with every government. There are vehicles for getting into relationships with the federal government, with agencies of government, with the state government, and with the political structure. We need to keep our house in order first. We need to remove this question of trust. When people say, oh, it's not an issue of trust, I don't agree. When the way you know is that when something comes up, there are people who constantly make excuses. If they're not talking of structure, they're talking of something else. So first of all, if I call Aniche to come and do this thing, and he says, oh, there is no structure. We won't do this until there's structure. This thing will never get off the ground. It is when people start talking, then you start developing the structure, then you start having unity, then you begin to go and connect to a place. You have to go to connect to government with an identity. So I think this is a continuing discussion. In the days ahead, I want us to develop on it because it's a practical reality that we have to face. Thank you.
Thank you, Bwagan Snapper. May I invite His Excellency to say one word relating to that if he's on? Is it on relating to integrating Oguta to the body polity politics of the state?
I think he dropped off.
Okay, so if he dropped off, I want to thank everybody. It's been a very warm conversation. It looks like we're off to a good start, and I am well confident that we're heading in the right direction. In the days ahead, we are going to be having further conversations. We're going to be drilling down to some of the elements that we talked about. And like I said, we're going to have a document, a communique around what we have jointly discussed. And I want to hand over to the coordinator of this event for the vote of thanks. Thank you so much and God bless.
Thank you so much, Prof. I want to thank everyone, but this vote of thanks today will be by Idu Ngadiaro. But I'd just like to say that tomorrow is another day for this conversation, and we're focusing on something that a lot of people have harped on, which is human capital development, and I believe that's where education sits squarely on. A lot of the times when we talk about what Oguta should be, people tend to forget. Education is a pillar, is important, but Oguta people in Oguta would need to eat, right? And so people would need to eat. So you need to talk about the economy, right? Now, it is important they're not going to be done in isolation. Education is important, and economy is also important. So you need to establish what the economy of Oguta is, and then you discuss education as you discuss all of that. So tomorrow we discuss human capital development. So, I like for us to make an effort to invite a lot more people to join the sessions, so that we can have even a more robust and elaborate conversations. Tomorrow is another day, and then next weekend is also another day. Idu, please.
His Excellency is back. I don't know, Faith, are we moving? He was supposed to give us a 1 minute. I don't know if we're still doing that, but he's back. I know 1 minute won't kill us, so I just want to not jump the gun. Are we going to? Okay.
His Excellency, we had wanted you to give us your 1 minute thoughts on how Oguta can be integrated into the political fabrics of a state.
Yep, that's great.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, first of all over the world, all over the planet, you government, there are several factors that influences government decisions. siting of industry, employment, recruitment, all these things depend on factors. And when you look at it, Oguta does not fit into most of these criteria. And let me point out two. In Oguta local government, where we are even, the Oguta local government, the acronym is Oguta, we are a minority. And Oguta man cannot win local government election. It requires some level of political sagacity to make an Oguta man win election. What is the voting strength of an Oguta man? How many of us in Nigeria are registered voters? Okay. So when a politician wants to do a project, he will ask, what is India for me? You want a politician to give you an appointment. How will that appointment leverage him politically in the future? So, one, Oguta people must be able to get involved politically. We don't need to be one political party. We don't need to be one political party. We can be in APC, APGA, AD, PDP, but the most important thing is that there must be a central body that will have an Oguta agenda. And that Oguta agenda will be driven by the interests of Oguta people. So whenever there is electioneering this thing, there must be some people that must be able to put in money. You put in money. You can't vote. You don't have the population. You can't vote. You can't put in money. You want commissioner. You want permanent secretary. You want board chairman. Who gives it to you? So our people should be able to, if you don't have money to put, so for those people, go and identify with those people and be sincere. Any campaign, don't embezzle it. Tomorrow, in Tatarafo, so a major campaign, or win an election, or you yaka. When he gave you his campaign money, you misappropriated it. So, one, we must be able to register. We must be able to have the number. If a politician looks at your strength and he knows that you can determine his political future, he is bound to listen to you when you make complaint. Two, we must be able to strengthen our relationship with people that are in position of authority. You must have one or two of your sons that can be able to be a point of connect. Three, we must have strong lobby team. We must have strong lobby team. Who is it in Nigeria who cannot raise 2 or 3 people that can go and meet them and talk on behalf of the community? But like as I said, you must have a veritable vehicle, and that vehicle is the town union. Let me give you an instance. 1983, Oguta people mobilized when the then governor Mbakwe tried to grant autonomy to Osemoto. Oguta people mobilized. Chief Hetfieldom was the immediate past chairman of MPP then. Senator Zeribe was a serving MPP senator. The Chief Wakami Yasana was the vice chairman of MPN in Imo State. They all came together and went and demonstrated at government house and at Imo State House of Assembly to challenge the government position on granting Osemoto autonomy. That is how community goes. And it was under a very strong town union that can be able to bring all the tendencies together so that the community interests at any point in time must be protected. Thank you very much.
Thank you, His Excellency. Idu, I hand back to you.
Okay. Ndibani, good evening. Thank you for your great patience. I'm going to stand on protocol. We're so over time. My name is Idu Ngadiaro. So I'll just, without further ado, His Excellency, Right Honorable Gerard Irona, Obuago, Dr. Eningwapa, Mr. Innocent Chukuma, our many respected speakers, panelists, our most valued invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. It really is a privilege to have been asked to propose the vote of thanks today. On behalf of Reimagine Oguta, On behalf of our lead, Uche Aniche, the entire supporting Oguta community leads, the associations, our many sponsoring organizations that partnered with us, the steering committees, the different Reimagine crews and teams, and even our special guests in the audience. I really wish to extend a very hearty vote of thanks to all the speakers for gracing your important work, sharing with us your findings and opinions today. A big thank you to the DGov. That great speech will reverberate all over. It will go viral. The thrust for our return to local governance was well noted. We're also grateful to Obuago Eniwapa for delineating the history upon which we're going to reflect. We must reflect and draw on to be able to build a greater tomorrow. We also thank Mr. Innocent Chukuma, who gave us an excellent coverage on the global perspective for sustainable rights-based citizens-led community development. I almost bit my tongue with that one, but it was really insightful. So along with all of this, I want to express sincere gratitude for the Oguta Association leads, Dr. Obika for Oguta USA, Engineer Ivan for Loop, Mr. I.J. Dibwa for UK Ireland, and our own Canada's Professor Faith for moderating. You guys provided encouragement, practical direction during the panel session. Many thanks to Dr. Sai, who anchored beautifully, and I heartily acknowledge all of you that participated via the Q&A sessions, the chatting. You gave lots of beautiful ideas. You exposed many points, concerns, opportunities, and epiphanies. We've all been inspired by all these great words and the calls to action, and we will continue to work on it as everybody else has said. Finally, I'm just going to quickly thank the organization. Uche Aniche, I thank you for not just having this vision, but staying on mission to drive it through. We've been having this conversation about this conversation for more than 2 years. So I'm so excited to be a part of it and that it has finally come. And it's the start, the reimagining for the beginning of the rebuilding of Oguta to be, I'm going to steal the Democrats' phrase in America, build back better. I don't want MAGA, build back better Oguta for everybody. So I also want to thank, I guess, my big brother, Obuago Ernest. Uche has been shopping this around, and I'm happy that it came under the umbrella of Loop, but I'm so happy that we did not go it alone, that we're bringing everybody together. So an event like this cannot happen overnight. It's been going for months. Uche has a Hydra-headed monster team. He has the steering committees within Loop. He has the committees outside. He has his tech team, Startup South, Havila Hills. It's just amazing to see what can happen when you put your heads together. So I'm very, very, very gratified. I'm not worried. I guess I'm an optimist, and I'll continue to be an optimist, but I want to thank all of you, the steering committee, the Broad Oguta Alliance, the engine team that powered this, everything that happened. Everybody knew their job. Everybody was results oriented, and we are leaving today very, very excited. So finally, I'm just going to say, please don't let this be the end of it. Come tomorrow, come on the 28th, come on the 29th, bring your thinking caps, bring your ideas. We're going to write them down, and this team is going to house everything. We're going to have a blueprint that everybody can draw from. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to bow out now. Oborine.
Thank you, Duke.
Clap.
Clapping already. All right. Thank you.
Alrighty.
So tomorrow, I promise we would make sure that tomorrow we don't exceed 2 hours. Most of the speakers tomorrow already know. Most of today was worth it. Thank you, everyone that stayed up till now. Most of the speakers for tomorrow already know that we're strict. We're going to be strict with the time, so we're going to be on time tomorrow.